Hey everybody, it's Hubby here with Just About Anything Garage on a lovely February 24th. You know, we had the crap snow and all that type of stuff, but it's warmed up. It's not too bad now. We're in the mid-30s. Shop's comfortable at about 50 degrees to work in, so no big deal. And we are back on the C30 project, which I want to let you know, we have not renamed her, we've named her Lavern. So meet Lavern. Lavern is going to be, of course, our custom tow vehicle that we're going to do, and we've been working towards that, and we got some more work that we're about to start on for her. And what we're going to do is in the first segment of this, the first release, we're going to work on getting the frame all ready to receive this flatbed that's right up here on top of Big Bertha. We've got to make some modifications to the flatbed and get it all set, but the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, we're going to get a tow plate put on it, and I'm going to show you a drawing of the tow plate in the next segment. But this is the tow plate right here, big piece of 1/4 inch steel, and you can see the lines. I hope you can see the lines on the camera that we've drawn out. It's basically 34 across by 24 deep. We sectioned it into a middle, and we're going to draw triangle lines down here to cut the corners. We'll use the triangle pieces as gussets in the design for this. And then we're going to cut out a big rectangle in the middle. It's about 11 inches long by 3 inches wide for a 3-inch receiver. And the reason it's that big is, remember, we're setting our receiver up on some hydraulics so we can move the receiver up and down over an 8-inch spread, so that we can either lift trailers, lower trailers, rebalance them, get loaded easier, unload them easier. And we're going to set controls up so we can do it from the back, which will probably sit up in this area. Or from in the cab. We'll be able to do it on the fly in the cab because the way we're going to set it up. And then we got all this area where we can arrange lights if we want to do that. We'll put big welded on places for chains to connect to. We'll have our nice output for our trailer connections. We're going to make a little electronic controller, so when you flip it into test mode, it'll exercise everything and automatically test your trailer lights for you, and then you can flick it off and you can be in normal. We're going to do all that. We've got a little bit of work we need to do first here, because we got to straighten out this cross member. A lot of things are going to attach to it, so we want to get it straight and flat. We're going to end up boxing the sections around where everything attaches, so it'll be nice and tight, and we'll box in some of these rails that are sitting underneath this plate right here, so that everything's nice and tight. And we'll have a nice big hitch plate. It's been designed, the whole shebang should be able to pull 25,000 pounds gross vehicle weight easy up to 32 without any real problem. That's what it's being designed to carry, and it should do that. The bed will have a hidden it'll have a hidden gooseneck connection, a flip down one that'll flip up, and then you can clip your gooseneck, bring your wiring back, plug it in here, be all set. So you'll be able to pull, we'll be able to haul, we'll be able to tow everything. So that's what we're doing on Big Bertha. Not Big Bertha, I'm sorry, on Lavern. We're going to get Lavern all set up and ready to go with that, and you're going to see that. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll, of course, get this all set up to take the plate. But I wanted to show you how the plate was going to be laid out. We'll cut the plate. We'll get it ready to go. We'll put it in there. When we put it in there, what we're going to do is we're actually going to insert it, if you can look under here, into here, and we'll cut a notch so it slides in. And we'll leave about 1/4 inch of the rail on either side for the welding. So it'll be really firmly attached. It'll have a bottom C-channel piece that'll come over and then angle up to connect here on the bottom of this, and then one on the top that'll come right up from the top and over onto this. So it'll be really firmly attached in those two C-channels, with the C pointing down on this, on the top side, and the C-channel pointing up on the other side. We're going to mount 2 slide rails for the receiver hitch to ride on, along with the hydraulics that are going to lift it. We'll put an over plate as the receiver comes out, and attach it so it's attached to the receiver, but it's making contact with this, and same on the back side. So when you get loads that go like this, it puts it on the plate and not necessarily on the riding pins. Now the riding pins are pretty big. Let me show them to you. They're hiding over here somewhere. Yeah, they're hiding inside. This is the 3-inch receiver pipe right here. So we're going with the bigger receiver. And then we'll put holes in it, and it'll, right on this, if I can get them to come out a little bit for me. There we go. This is 2x2 1/4 inch square pipe, 2 inch by 2 inch that we're going to use for some bracing. But we're going to have 2 rods that are this thickness. So that's about, what is it, 1.5 inches, I believe, in thickness. That will have holes drilled in the top of this, up front and in the back, and then the hydraulic will be mounted in the middle. We'll ride on that up and down, so it'll keep it centered and straight. So you'll see the design. We'll show it. We'll draw it up on paper. But we're doing all heavy-duty stuff. Nothing should bend. Everything should ride smoothly. We'll make a couple of collars that we can put grease zerks in for the top, so that we can grease these up, because this will ride in that easily, just like that. So plenty of space to fill it right up with grease. So that's what we're going to do. So that's where we're at. We're going to get started with this project to get her going, because I need to get my tow vehicle up. That was the level I just kicked over, and get her on the road. Then the next part that we'll go to once we do that, if you've been watching the behind the scenes stuff, we did some picking up, cleaning, and reorganizing, because we got some equipment in here we got to do. We've got this motor up on the motor stand. We put these covers on. They're going to get busted up. We're going to pull everything off. We're going to pull the heads off. We're just going to inspect it, because it's a brand new motor, but I haven't used it, and it's like 15 excuse me, to 20 years old. So I want to go through and make sure, like, you know, we got mud daubers that have gotten into the oil fill. We're going to clean all that stuff out. We're going to pop off the heads just to make sure that our cylinders are clean, and we'll look at those. We'll re-put heads down with new fresh gaskets and stuff. I believe everything is fine. Everything turns over. Nothing's frozen. But we'll just make sure we don't have a lot of rust from it sitting in humidity getting into it. So we'll give it a quick inspection, and then blow it apart and then put it back together. It'll go in here with that transmission right there. It's got a hydraulic PTO coming off of it, which I believe we're going to take off. We're going to hook the pump to a magnetic clutch and mount it to the front of the engine on a big plate, so that we can have electronically controlled PTO rather than the mechanical control. We'll see what happens. We might keep it mechanical and change up how we do it, since it's already sitting there, but we'll see what happens. So it'll have a 350. I think when we pull this apart, we're going to get a package. I've already ID'd it with a high torque RV cam and cast iron Vortec heads. We'll put a Vortec intake manifold on it along with it, so that we get a lot of good grunt out of it. It probably won't do much more than 200 215 horsepower, but it should have like close to 300 foot-pounds of torque, which is what we want in towing. And one feature we'll add to that is we'll pull that tail housing. We'll put a gear vendor on it, so that we can have an overdrive unit, so that when we're pulling stuff around and pulling it home, we get on highways, we don't have to turn high RPMs. We can knock it down a little bit and basically have a 2-speed. We can also split shifts, split gearing, so if we need to do that, we can do that as well. But that's where we're heading with this. We're going to get it started with this video, and we'll start with the toe plate, get the toe plate done, turn our attention to the motor. Once we get the motor done, we'll turn our attention back to the rest of the frame for whatever it's going to do to pull and receive the motor and the transmission. And then we'll start to work on the cab and the interior. And we're going to make her we'll make Lavern really comfortable, good to drive, lots of power. And pulling stuff out, we'll rebuild the rear end, because it's got an fully floating open differential, and we want to pull it. And we want to put a posi in there so that we can have some great traction with it. All right, so that's where we're going, so hang tight. Next one, we'll show you the drawing of how everything goes together with the toe plate, and then we'll get to work on the toe plate, getting it set up and then getting it welded in with the changes that we need to make, the cleanup that we need to do. All right, so you guys hang tight, and we'll be right back with the next segment on this. All right, so we're back on to the C30 Lavern, as we told you in the last segment that we named it. And before we go and we do the paper layout, and I show you that, I wanted to show you a couple things here. We've got the plate up against it. You can see what we're going to do. The white marks are where we're going to cut it. It's also pretty low. It doesn't extend lower than the differential. It's high enough, but we get about 6 inches of suspension travel in this. So, you know, it's going to have like a 1-inch clearance. Plus the fact we've got a height problem when we put the, over here, hydraulic cylinder on that we're going to use to lift and lower the receiver up and down. It's going to push it too low down below it. So here's what we're going to do. This needs to come up a little bit anyways. So we're going to take it. We're going to cut out our sidelines. We're going to get our gusset plates for that. We're going to raise this 2 inches up. We're going to go 2 inches up here, 2 inches up here, and effectively what it does is it's going to put, when you put this on level with the top, it's going to sit on top of this. It'll fit right on top of that, because that'll be 2 inches above that. This is 2 inches here, right? So when we go to weld it onto this plate, what we'll do is we'll put another plate on that comes up and over like this, and then we're going to butt it and we'll weld it onto that. So it'll be raised 2 inches. And what that'll do is it'll also pick the bottom up 2 inches. We extend this portion up 2 inches, and we'll get the throw distance, the stroke distance that we want on the plate. Okay, so I'm going to go and let me draw everything up and how we're going to put it together using the C channel, this big plate, and the other pieces of metal that we have here, how it's going to go together. We'll do some real fine measurements to make sure we're right, because once we weld it, it ain't going away. And what we're going to do is we're going to trace it out, right? We're going to, once we've got it up to where we want it, we'll trace the outside of the frame around and the inside of the frame, because we're going to want to slot it here, right? And then slide it here so it fits on the inside of these frame rails, so it'll slide right in between them. We'll weld it in between. We'll leave like a 1/4 of an inch gap or something like that on the back of it. And then it'll be firmly in there. We'll have, of course, the channel across the top with the channel piece that goes across the bottom with a couple of brackets that come up and angle it like this and hold it like that. And then we'll have the mechanism in the middle to lift and lower the receiver hitch on it. So we'll draw that up here for this next segment, but I wanted to come in and show you with it lined up where it was going to be, and the fact that we need to do a little redesign on it and move it up about 2 inches so we can accommodate, make everything there. And if we get suspension travel as we're loaded, we don't smack the bottom of the plate and bend it or rip it off or something, or bend the frame. So that's what we're at, and we'll be back in just a minute with the drawing that we're going to have that lays everything out. So hang tight. All right, so we're in the office and we're doing the drawings like we promised you that we do. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take a look about what we plan to do, how we're going to lay everything out. All right, so first off, let's go ahead and let's take a look at, and sorry for the shadows, the actual toe plate. The actual toe plate, okay, we talked about this. It's 34 inches wide. It's 12 inches at the center. We're going to go cut it at a diagonal here to get the gussets, and it's 24 inches deep. Okay, the way that we're going to lay it out is you're going to have the receiver slot cut into it here. It'll be 8 3/4 inches high, and it'll be 3 1/8 inches wide. And that's to make sure that we have enough clearance for things to move up and down and not get jammed up on it. We're going to put a camera at the top for backing up. We're going to put 2 backup lights on it right here. We're going to have the electrical connection for the trailer right here. We're going to put a panel box up here for the receiver controls, right? It'll have the control, the DCR, directional control valve, along with 2 switches to cause 2 things, to turn on the PTO and to cause it to idle up so that we can go ahead and do things. There's a couple indicators to tell us where things are going. That's what our current plan is for that. The chain spots will go right here, of course, where you go ahead and latch your chains. And then what we're going to do here is, this is how we're going to go and mechanize everything, excuse me, with respect to the receiver. So first here you have the toe plate is right here. This is a receiver coming through. It's going to be a 3-inch receiver. We're going to have 2 pins that come down. This is a C channel that goes across the top, goes from the top of the plate over to the cross frame that's here. And one that's on the bottom, that'll go from there. It'll be a little bit short because there's no cross frame that's on the bottom. And then we'll have angled supports that go up to the frame rails. This is a breakout of that right here, where it'll go from one frame rail to the other and attach to the back of the channel right there. Okay? And so we'll put a couple of not collars, but little bushings up here with grease zerk so that we can grease it. And then the hydraulic cylinder will be right in the center. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to calculate, do we have enough space to do it, because we have 24 inches here in order to bring up the thing. So what we have to do is we have to do a stack up, right? So that's what this is right here. We have a 1/4 inch times 2 for each of the channel thicknesses, that are going to be there that suck up part of that. We have the receiver height at 3 inches, and then we have the closed distance for the cylinder, which is 14 inches, and then we have a kind of a cylinder offset, which is 2 times 3/4 of an inch, which is 1.5 inches, which is a total of 15.5 inches. This is a closed, measured end from end, because the closed distance, the 14 inches here, is actually measured, from the center points of each of the mounting holes. So we have to make sure that we accommodate everything. When you add that all up, we get 18.5 inches, okay? Now we know we have 24 inches, so if we take the 24, we minus 16.5 inches here, we're going to have 5.5 inches left over. Originally I did it with 6, but I was off on my calculations with respect to the total close distance here. So we'll have most of our stroke. This is a 6-inch stroke on this. We'll be able to use 5.5 inches. That'll be fine. Everything is laid out to transfer any force or weight into the frame rails, right? Right here on the front of the receiver, we'll go ahead and we'll put a plate that'll be welded to the receiver and pressed up against the front of the toe plate, and then one on the back welded to the receiver and pressed up against the back. So if you get forces that push it forward and back, it'll transfer it to the toe plate mostly, and so the pins, which are pretty big, 1.5 inches, won't get flexed, right? They won't bend on that. Okay, and then the other thing is the hydraulics. How are we going to set the hydraulics up? Okay, so here's how the hydraulics go. We have 2 T's here. One is the main entrance to the T is going to go to the pump, and on the other T it's going to go to the tank. Okay, and then they're going to tee off. One's going to go to the directional control valve for the cab right here, to the T on this, and to the P port on this. And then the one that's back on the toe plate, the same thing. It'll go to the P port and the T port. And then the other directional controls have an A and a B port, right? And the A and B ports go to the cylinder to cause the cylinder to extend and retract. So we'll tee those off, and 1A will come from the back control into a T, and 1B will come into the T, and same over here. On the cab one will come into the other side of the T, and then they'll go off to the cylinder, main cylinder right here. So you can use either of the 2 controls, either the one in the cab or the one on the toe plate, to go ahead and command the receiver to go up or down. So if you're at the back and you're trying to hook up, you can do it. If you're on the fly driving and you want to make an adjustment, you can adjust it, tweak it up and down. You can do whatever you want. Okay, and then the last part of this equation here is the electrical connection. We're going to keep it real simple in terms of what we're going to do with respect to turning the PTO and the idle up circuit on the right, if I could think and talk here, on how we're going to operate that. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the ignition 12 volts into a master switch, so you have a master on. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to hook power across onto a double throw single pole. So you got 2 switches each, because you got one in the front and the back, one for idle and one for the PTO control, and the same on the toe plate. One for the PTO control, one for the toe. And so here's how it works, right? So you'll have one of the not the common pole, but one of the switch poles be connected to power. The other ones will be connected to ground down here, and then the center ones will come off and run through relays that control the PTO. Because remember, we're going to have a magnetic PTO that'll turn that pump on for us, belted to the engine, and then the same up for an idle circuit. What we're going to do there is we'll have a solenoid. So this represents a solenoid that'll pull the idle up to about 1500 RPM so that you can put a little juice into the pump. So let's assume that they're all of them are in the up position to start. You have plus V voltage going through the coil and then going back to plus V, so nothing's going to happen. So if you flip the switch in the cab in the other position, it'll then hook it to ground. You'll have power coming in from the switch at the back plate, and then going through, turning on the PTO, and going to ground. And then if you want to turn it off, you can either switch that back up high, or if you're at the back of the trailer, back of the truck, and you want to turn it off, if you switch it in the other one, it'll hook ground to ground and turn off the PTO. And the same thing works for the idle. So we just have a two-way switch set up here, so it's really simple. We'll put some indicators also on the relays that control these down here, so we know that the relays have at least closed in the commanded thing, so we'll know when they're off and we'll know when they're on. All right, so that's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to mechanize everything and put everything together. I'm sure we'll have to do tweaks and change some things as we're going with this. But if we do, you guys will be involved. You know what's happening all the way along. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to start to get the toe plate set up with all the cuts that need to be made and the holes that need to be drilled and everything that needs to be there so we can attach it to the frame. We'll then do the mechanism for the lifting and the lowering of the receiver. Make sure everything's welded up nice and good. And we'll go from there. All right, so we'll see you guys in just a little bit with the start of that type of stuff. All right, heading back out to the shop. We're going to get some cutting done, okay? So, real quick here, before we set you up to look at that, what do we got? This is the frame rails that we drawn in here, right? This is the thickness of the rail and the back part, so that's the inside, this is the outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to slot it into here, we're going to slot it into there, then I'm going to come down and trim it down into there after we do the slots. The same on the other side, right? We'll go ahead and we'll get the slot cut, and then trim it down the back side. Then we'll flip it over, we'll cut the triangle gusset pieces off. We're going to do on that. And then we need to redraw the, if you remember from our discussion on the drawing, we're going to need to remake that, like, you know, 3 1/8 wide and 8 3/4 or something like that tall. So we'll redraw that. And then what we'll do there is we'll drill the corners and we'll use a saber saw to go ahead and cut the interior of that out. Here we're going to use my 6.5 inch DeWalt handheld flat saw and cut slots in it and then trim it down. So let's go ahead and get you guys set up. Like that. See if we can't do this. Tripping over everything here. Jeez. Let's see, the kerf width of this blade that we're using, it's a cut-off blade, should be just about what we need it to be. let's measure how deep that is. Make sure we cut enough in. So we're looking at, what are we looking at here? 2 5/8, 3/8. No, 3. What are we looking at? We're looking at right around 3 inches. We're a little deeper than that, so we're good. Let's check that battery juice on this because these are recharged. Oh yeah, this is down to 1. Let's go swap batteries. Looks like we're gonna suck juice like crazy. Oh, and it's warm. Next, we're gonna burn through batteries doing it this way, but we'll get it there. Okay, let me move you guys a little bit. Make sure you're still looking. Down the center. Want to be a little longer. Oh, right about the same width. That's like 3 1/4. Let's go just a little bit further on that one. And 3/8. And just hit this one just a little bit. Make it 3 3/8 because it's about 1/8 off. Yep, looking good. These are going to be short of that, so we'll fill some of the weld on the interior. Really doesn't need to be more than 2 7/8. All right, let's trim it. Move you over again. think we're gonna need to swap batteries again. Yep. Let's see what we got for length now to the edge. Should be pretty close. Yeah, right around 3/8. Yeah, we're an eighth over, which is cool. All right. Let's take a look. So we trimmed the excess off. So when I get this line trimmed here, this will fit right in there. This will be below. This one will be below. This one will be above. So it'll be short. It'll be cut short because we're not trimming down here. We're going to leave it there, but we'll have the right lines, and then we'll do the same thing over here. All right. So let me finish those up, and then we'll try and fit them, and we'll move on to the corner cuts. I got to let the battery charge, anyways. So hang tight, and we'll be right back with the finished results. All right. So quick update here. The slots are lining up where they are. Well, we got to open the gaps up a little bit. They're not quite wide enough for these. You can see that's a little thicker there, and we need to curl the corners to do that. We need to do the same over here. Open the gaps up a little bit, and we want to lengthen these just a tad. I mean, there's room there, but we want to do that. This thing really burns through batteries. Let me tell you, when we're cutting it, it's pretty thick, but it's doing the job. So we'll take the grinder, and we'll start to grind and see if we can't get into these corners a little bit. Not sure how we're going to lengthen that gap out unless we take the saw again and use the saw to, you know, do it to get those a little bit wider, something with a little bit more girth, just to trim the corners of it so we can get it to slide in there. But it's coming along. We'll do these next. You know, we'll get some of the weight off of it so it's easier to move. And I got to redraw this, like I said, because it needs to come up just a little bit higher, and it's going to be smaller. It's like 8 3/4 versus that's about 11. So we're getting there. We'll keep plugging away at it. Right, we'll be back. Okay, so we're back after a couple days break here. I got the stomach flu. That thing's nasty. Try and avoid that sucker. Fortunately, it's short-lived. Intense, but short-lived. So anyways, we're back at it here. And I don't know if we showed you this before, so let's review real quick. We got the plate set up here. And we made our initial cuts here, right? And so what we've done is we retraced where we got to trim some stuff. We need to widen these gaps on both of these. The curve width of the original one that I used on this, I think I got Hercules from Home Depot. It's thinner, but look what not from Home Depot, Harbor Freight, but I found Diablo's at Home Depot. I was looking for some other stuff, and it's got a wider curve thickness to the cutting wheel, which is called the curve, right? The curve, when you I don't know if you guys know this, but whenever you make a cut with something, the blade has a width to it, right? They call that the curve of the cut. That's why you always cut on the waist side of your mark, because you're going to always get a portion of that thickness. So if you cut right at the point where you want it, you're always going to be short. You have no option to, because you're going to get at least some portion of the blade width that's going to trim off what you want. So you always cut on the waist side of it and leave the line intact. So for us, what we want to do here is I want to widen this because we got to fit it through there. So we're going to take that wheel, switch it out to the Diablo, and we're just going to run it up here and see if we can get it slotted so it'll fit. Then we'll go ahead, and I've got some blades, nice fine tip T-locks, bi-metal blades for the jigsaw. We'll use my jigsaw, and we'll go ahead and we'll trim these corners so I can get in there with that to give us some rounding on both sides here, here, and here, and here, and here. And we'll see if we can get the plate to fit, because what we want to do is get the plate fitted, get it level and square. We're just going to tack it just a little bit so we can get our other measurements in place for the top pieces, for the C channel on the top and the C channel on the bottom. I picked up a couple of Milwaukee hole saws. It's 1 1/4 for the size of the solid rod right here. That's going to go through for that. So we can go and lay them out and we can get them in there and drop that in. And we'll go from there. So it's March 7th here, I guess. We're cold. Got that cold front that came through with the wind. Anyways, let me go and set that up. We'll get that cut and we'll show you the results of that on how we did. See if that increased width of those cutting blades will give us a better fit for that. So hang tight. We'll be right back with that. Okay, there we go. It's fitted. This side we got really nice fitted in here, but this one gave me a little bit of a problem. You can see the gap's wide because it needs to come over a little bit more. We'll try and get it to come over some. We got room to spare here that we can do that. We'll hit it with the sledge and see if we can get it. It is plumb. It's up and down. We'll still be wide here, and we'll get this a little closer over this way so we fill some of that gap. But then when we weld it, it won't be a real issue. So that took quite a bit to get that, and I had to do it with primarily my plug-in 7-inch skill saw, which has a 6.5 inch. The reason I went to this is more power because I got sick of changing batteries, and it's consistent in what it does. So it was really easy to cut the slot to the width and then keep gnawing away at it. And I could actually do the corners. Don't use the grinder. I tried to clear this with the grinder wheel grabbed and it kicked it right out of there. Yeah, see? It got me right on the finger when it did that. Anyways, it's a nice tight fit. Everything's really tight, so that'll be really good. We'll get it repositioned over a little bit. Now what we got to do is pull it up, and we're going to cut the diagonals. That'll be pretty easy. The other reason I switched to that was, besides not wanting to change batteries 800 times, was you can see right here, that's carbon slag. The carbon comes off of it hot, and it's sticking to the plastic, so I got to get all that stuff off there. It doesn't quite cause it to stop it from moving, but we'll get it cleaned off and we'll do that. But otherwise, we've got that all edged out, so that's going to fit nice. We'll get it in and welded. We'll get the supports in there and positioned, get some measurements done. So that'll be the next step. Well, I've got it in there wedged. I'm going to finesse the position of it a little bit more. Then we're going to go and take some measurements to understand what we have for the top C channel, the bottom C channel, and distances for supports and stuff. So we'll be back with that once we got something to update you on. And then we'll also do that slot too. Remember, we got to shorten it a little bit because it's not 11 inches, it's 8. I think the bottom set, so this will come down like 3 inches to here or something like that. And we'll be in good shape. All right, so hang tight. And we'll be back with some more in just a little bit. Okay, there we are. Cut along the diagonals. Fit in about the same distance side to side. I'm gonna do a little tweak in here just to make sure. I mean, this is level. It's level up and down. We're gonna have to fill this a little bit. We got a little exuberant cutting the slot there, but otherwise not too bad. It wasn't too hard. These came off. I did switch the blade halfway through. Well, just after I finished the first one, because it wore down. And it cut a lot better after I changed the blade out. But certainly not done with the heavy metal work yet. But there's the plate corners cut. There's the slots cut. It's in the frame rail. I mean, it's in there good and tight as it is. We got to measure out the bottom piece, the top piece. Make sure that we got the right distances here. We'll go through and we'll see, because this is shorter here than here. So we're gonna wanna measure and make sure that we got it so it's square in every direction. But for the most part, there's the big toe plate inserted into the frame, cut. We'll of course clean off for doing the welding. We'll fill all this in with weld when we get ready to do that. But then the next thing that we need to do is get the measurements from here to here. We're going to have to still fix this. We haven't done that yet. But we'll get the big torch out, heat that up, see if we can't find a piece of wood or something that'll fit in here and start banging the living crap out of it until it lines up. But we got it cut, It'll be ground, it'll be painted, of course, by the time we're done. We got to do the centerpiece, got to redraw that. That'll be the next thing after I get the measurements and I got it where I want it. So that's the update. We're looking pretty good. We'll be back when we got a little bit more. Okay, so we had the primary stuff cut out and it's mounted and it's level and square as I can get it. We've got the receiver sitting in there. That's the 3-inch tube with the slot cut. It's a pain in the butt to do skill set to cut that, but it was okay. We're going to clean it up with a grinder a little bit. We got play side to side and up and down, so that should slide in and out pretty easily. It's about, I haven't measured it, but where's my tape measure? Nowhere to be seen in hand, okay? Oh, it's because it fell on the ground. Because it was sitting on the thing as we were cutting it. That's about 6 inches out, yeah. So that's about where it'll probably be. And of course the bracing has to go in, so it's not going to be just like this. And of course we've got to attach the C-channels as part of the bracing, and then this will slide, the receiver tube will slide on the C-channel. I did the 3-inch receiver so I could take really big stuff. Could of course stick an insert in there to reduce it down if we need to do that. But all in all, not too bad, not too shabby. We'll clean up here, we'll put some material in and we'll weld it to make sure it's good and firm, and we'll weld all in there. And then this, we'll probably try and pop it over just a little bit. We can't because we got a pretty good gap there. We got plenty of space to move there. But there's the toe plate cut. Now the next steps we're going to do is we'll go ahead and get all our measurements. We'll work on the C-channels, which all the C-channel fell off, except for that one over there. Fell off when I was cutting, shaking that mother up. And get it set up with the pins in it so we can have the riding up and down. That's set at its lowest level there, right? So it'll ride up in the slot via here, right? Up and down in the slot as the hydraulics mechanizes it and pulls it up. So we're getting there. A quick update on this chilly Sunday afternoon in March. I think it's the, what is it, the 9th? Today's the 9th. But that's where we're at. And we'll just keep going. We'll keep filling you guys in, and we'll release this pretty soon. All right, we'll see you guys shortly. All right, so this is a little post-video, pre-release recording I'm sticking here at the end. We're going to close this particular video out. Excuse my tripod. This as part 1 of the toe plate, because I got like a billion of them and we're just going to break it up. It's going to be too long. So we're gonna close this one out here. We'll give you a little future shot for part 2. You can see that we got it together and we're just finishing the things up. But this is the end of part 1. Part 2 will be released almost immediately. On that, it's just that it's too much, too big. So we appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Do all that jazz for me, which is, you know, click that like, share the video, give me comments, hit that notification bell so you get all the stuff, all that really good stuff for that. And we'll be out, probably within a week of this release with part 2 of the plate, where we should wrap everything up and we've got the rear end toe plate ready and we can move on to the next thing for her. All right, so we appreciate you guys. Again, thanks for watching, and we will catch you on part 2 of the toe plate.